Hello everyone, welcome to another quick tutorial. Today what I'm going to be taking you through is how to report on the opportunities that we've been putting into iPower, also called Clientstream. How do you get that information out in an easy and timely way? So there are two key ways to get reporting information out. The first is via a shortcut, which I highly recommend if you have the opportunity to use it. And the second is via a report builder. So what I'm going to do is flick into our system now and show you how to find each of these. I won't be going into any great detail around how to search for opportunities and the navigation of editing and creating, because I have covered this in other tutorials, and I recommend you have a look through my channel if there's any questions that you have at the end of this that may be covered in other tutorials. So what we do in opportunities is you come to the pipeline and you create opportunities that we're pursuing. And as I've covered in my past tutorials, this shortcut down here is a really quick and great way to get a report on everything that I'm involved with. And what you can do once you've sort of hit your little shortcut is actually export this into Excel. And so if I press this little Excel button, this is now going to take everything that was in my pipeline and pop that into an Excel spreadsheet for me, which is really quick and easy. And I think that's the quickest and easiest way for you to put information into an Excel spreadsheet from the pipeline. However, the only opportunities that appear here are the ones where you've been named. And the ones where you've been named means that you have to have your name in any of the opportunity team criteria, which is here. So you have to have your name in one of these boxes and or be the creator of the opportunity. So that's the only way that that little shortcut's going to work for you. If you're looking to search for a pipeline that's beyond what you've been named in, then you do need to use the report builder. And the report builder can be found here on that right-hand side menu there. Now, if you don't have that menu item, it's because report builder isn't by default turned on for every user. You do actually need to submit a request to have access to this. And I will put the link in the form to request access if you can't see that in your system already. The reason that we do this is we need to be conscious that the report builder is accessing a rather large amount of information for our clients. And whilst we are always conscious that we never put confidential information into the pipeline, and when we do, we mark it so, we want to be conscious that we're not extracting mass amount of data, because this is obviously not great security. So when you are building reports, you should always be looking for a small amount of data, perhaps on a particular client, a particular team, a particular industry. You should never really be seeking all of a particular industry, firm-wide, territory-wide, for example, because one, it's probably not going to be that well performance to use this tool, and two, it's not great to have that much data. So what you need to do is click this link. Now, I have already clicked that because it does actually take a minute or so to load. You do need to be a little bit patient because it is a cloud web page. It's like a massive web page loading. But what happens is once you click that button, you should be able to come in and get this, this screen here. And so what I wanted to do is just step you through some of the criteria here that you can search on and how this marries to the form, because there are a few little nuances, and every category bar 2 or 3 that you enter into the form, you can come back here and search for as a criteria. So the first thing we'll do is we'll name our report, because you want to obviously save this and run this potentially today and future days. So I'm just going to call this test report. You also need to define where you want to save this. So at the moment, it's going to be saved in my directory. Only me can see this. Only I can see this. And when we're finished, you'll see that I'll actually come down here and join some of my other reports that only I can see. But if you were to select my operating unit, my business unit, line of service or territory, they are different cohorts. And so territory is great that when you want to share something with somebody who's outside of your team, and this is a great example of where you're in a centralized team like finance and you want to share something with one of the business teams like consulting, or if you're an executive assistant and you sit in firm services, you want to share it with your team who sit in deals. You would need to go up to territory level because you are in different lines of services and teams. But for this example, I'm just going to select me and me only. So when you come in here, the first tab you get to choose from is that team. And it was that team that I referred to just a moment ago in the field. The only little nuance here is the names, and we are aware of this and we do seek to change this soon, is opportunity, driver, and job partner. When you come back into your opportunity, they're actually named a little differently. And again, apologies about this, but the pursuit leader is the job partner. That's that mapping there. And then the pursuit driver is the opportunity driver. For the rest of these fields, you should find that they are all named very similar, and you can select which people that you want. It's really good to mention, though, that when you select across the boxes, you use an and statement, or when you select within the box, you use an or. And so a good example of this is, if I was to select job partner Simon and Campbell, what I'm saying is I want all opportunities where Simon or Campbell is the job partner of. Now, if I was to select across the boxes and say Gerald, now I'm saying I want where the job partner is Simon or Campbell and the opportunity manager is Gerald. And so you can see that by selecting across more and more boxes, you're making that statement longer and longer, and you're refining further and further. So what I recommend is to not select too many boxes, because the chances are, if you were, for example, selecting Simon across all of these boxes, what we're now saying is I'm looking for an opportunity where Simon is the job partner and he's the driver and he's the manager, and it was referred by him. And that's a really unlikely combination to have that same person in those 14 fields. And so just bear in mind that when you do select across fields. But for now, I'm also going to untick all of these. I'm actually going to search on people today. When you come into firm, you can search in firm by two mechanisms, and it's really important to differentiate between the two because you'll get a different result. You have a line of service, and then you have a product line of service, and I'll come back to the form so I can define for you what the difference is. So when you go into your opportunity form, the line of service, which was the one that was at the top here, that is defined by whoever is the pursuit leader. So in this instance, Ken Neat is our pursuit leader. And so when we scroll down to the firm structure and the line of service, that is determined by Ken's mapping, where Ken sits. And you can see he sits in consulting and he's in business performance consulting. However, there was another product line of service. And what you can do in an opportunity now, if I tick edit, is you can add multiple products to an opportunity. This is a great feature because it allows you to add more than one team to one opportunity, whereas in the past we're asking you to duplicate your opportunities, which was laborious. But for what you can see here now is you can see that one product is being delivered for $200,000, and that is with business performance consulting, which is one and the same as Ken's team, and that's all likelihood why Ken's leading it. But they've got another team in here as well. They've got something called the difference, and the difference are going to be delivering $25,000 of this opportunity. And so you have products in the system which are mapped to lines of services. So products essentially are our capabilities. And then you have teams, and they are mapped to lines of service as well. It's really important to note that in general, in pipeline land, we define pipeline using these products. So because of the multiple products being in one opportunity, we can't just put all of the opportunity value under the pursuit leader, because the pursuit leader might be sitting across a little bit of deals pipeline, a little bit of consulting pipeline, or a little bit of financial assurance pipeline, a little bit of PIC pipeline. So it's not a really good, accurate definition of teams to put everything under the pursuit leader's name. You should actually probably search by the product line of service, which is those fields down there. So the next criteria you can search by is via our clients, and there's a little bit of nuance in this, so I'll just take you through it. So when you want to search for a client, you need to click this search button and type in your client's name and hit enter. Now, it's a really good time to pause and just recognise that there is a bit of a problem in our system with duplicating clients at the moment. When you're creating an opportunity, what's happening is people aren't finding the client that they want, and instead of using ANZ Banking Corporation, they're using ANZ Proprietary Limited. We really encourage you to look for the right client, because what's happening is what you see here is we now have a bunch of ANZs when essentially we don't need these many ANZs. We probably need 3 or 4. That makes sense. But having 15 is actually getting really laborious, and they're not being created for any reason other than people can't find the right one to use for lack of searching really well. So having said that, you can see that there's 3 here that are head clients, and it's defined by these little blue folders with the HC on. If our clients have been set up correctly and they're not a rogue client, all of these little sub-clients should map into one of these 3 head clients. And so essentially, you should in inverted commas, just have to grab head clients. And what you can do is say, I want that head client and all its subsidiaries. So now that I've ticked on the subsidiaries, you now actually need to select the client themselves. So you can see there that I'm just selecting one instance. What you need to do is hold your shift key, and you can select all 3 instances. So you can select in bulk, essentially, and I'm going to hit add. And what you can see now is behind us, it's now popped into that client field and it's included the subsidiaries. If you do have a client where you find there's a lot of duplication in their client name, I would just recommend that you select everything. Make sure you do tick on those subs for those head clients and add them just as a matter of course. It's better to have the client name in there and not needed than omit it from your report and then your results don't come through. So I'm going to tick OK. So I've now done a search for the client name, Australia and New Zealand Banking. Pipeline status is another really key criteria that we search by, and the status refers to back in here where you have an opportunity status, and you see I'm using targeting right now. So if I was to search on targeting, this would find my opportunity. Again, you're using the or statement, so I'm now saying anything in prequal or targeting or understanding needs. But now that I've put criteria across 2 boxes, that's the end. So it's any in these 5 statuses and with ANZ Bank. There are some dates over here that you can use. I'd strongly advise against it though, because I find that the dates can be a little bit nuanced and it can refine your report a lot. You can look for things that were created on a certain date or days at status. And when we say days at status, what we mean is how long has this opportunity been sitting in that targeting status for? Is it 10 days? Is it 30 days? And so you can define your criteria there. And you can also define your fees. So lastly, we just need to tell the report what information we want extracted. We've already sort of set the filters, so we know the filters is ANZ and we know the status is 1 to 5. We then can export majoritively all of the criteria in this form. There's only 1 or 2 fields that you can't have. And there are some that are ticked on for you by default, but if you want something specific, you should go through and have a look through. There's a really good little trick. If you just double click on that, it will sort by everything that is included and then everything that is included. And another really great trick is you can sort by typing in there as well. So you can see my opportunity driver is already ticked on. A word of warning about the fees, and this is really important. You have a couple of different fees in here that you can use to export, and some of them are already ticked on by default. You can see here there's, and let me just type fee because this will show us nicely. You can see here there's an estimated fee USD, and this is pretty obvious, and this is great if you're working with global. There's an estimated fee total, alternative currency, and original currency, and you can say, wow, that's a lot of fees, what's all the difference? And so here it is. When you go into your opportunity and you set a fee, and I'll just tick in here to edit the fees, you can actually set a different currency. So I can say it's 25,000 Thai baht or USD. So when you report, you can also select what kind of fee that you want to export. And so this original currency here refers to whatever the person has ticked in here, that's the currency it will export into Excel. Obviously, this is great just for reporting the status quo, but if you wanted to sum these tables up or do any numerical insight on them, summing up different currencies isn't very good, obviously. So you should always look to use this total estimated fee alternative currency. This, in other words, is Australian dollars. So it doesn't matter if they entered it in yen or in baht, this one will always be in the same Australian currency. And to that end, I often find that I tick off these other fees because I find them confusing when you export too many fees. Another really good one to have on is alternative currency weighted fee. So the difference between total fee and weighted fee, again, when you come into your form, you are asked to give a rating, a sentiment of how likely we are to win. And in this form, I've put 40%. And so what it says is 225,000 is my total. At a weighting of 40%, that equals $90,000. And so when you export this field, that will say $90,000 and this will say 225,000. It's a way of just us giving a temperature check on what is the likelihood of the pipeline to be realised? Because we're not going to convert everything. We don't have a 100% success rate. It's actually probably more like 50%. So this allows you to give a sentiment on your pipeline of, well, what's likely to actually be realised. Few last little tidbits of information. I always recommend you move the output format to flat. The grouping refers to if you have an opportunity that has more than one product, like I do here. You can see I've got BP&C service transformation, and I've also got the difference involved as well. It will export those into Excel, but instead of actually duplicating the line item, so you see all of the information on 2 separate rows, it only actually changes the product and the fee. So again, if you're using this spreadsheet to do any sort of numerical calculations, you don't want to see absent data there. And so by changing the group to flat, it's going to duplicate the information out every line that you get. So you are going to be able to run formulas accurately. So now I've ticked on all my criteria. The last thing for me to do is to save this report. So I've given my report a name, and we've defined again that I'm only saving it to me, but you can choose wherever you like. And I'm going to press save and publish. A good note is this box down here is default ticked on to do not generate a report. And this is really handy if you're coming in and just making edits to a report that you've already created, and I'll cover that in a second. Because you don't want to put the report out or publish the report every time you make an edit. So I'm going to hit save and publish, and because this box is ticked, there's going to be no report published just now. But what you'll find is if I come in here over to my reports now, you'll see that this test report, because I publish it to me, has now popped up in my list, and I can press it and run it. And essentially this is now running what would have happened if I had have unticked that box. It's going to publish out to Excel a report based on those criteria that we've just asked for. And so it's just opening up my file, and now we can see here are the fees, and here are all of the columns essentially that we were asking for. And you can then, send that on or create your own analysis of what you need to do. So if you do need to ever come back in and remove or edit your report, it's as simple as coming in here, coming back to this page, typing in your name, and you will see it can auto-populate. What will happen is you click on that, and all of the field settings that was involved in this report come back, and you can see all of the ANZ and everything is now there. If, for example, you wanted to create a new report, change the settings. So this time I'm just going to tick on 1, change your name, and press save and publish. And then this will create a new report. If you click yes, or if you click no, it's going to save over the top of the old one. I'm going to click yes, and see now I've got 2 reports here, test report wins and test report. But say you created this in error or you no longer need it, again, just come up here, type your name. You can see my test report wins, hit delete, and that will remove the report, and it will never be able to be reused again. So be conscious that only remove reports that you are never intending to use again. So again, you just hit delete. So this is the end of how you report on pipeline. Sorry, I do know that this tutorial has been a little bit longer, but as you can see, there are quite a few nuances about when you're looking for information, how to look and make sure that you're selecting the right feeds. As I say, if you've got any questions, there's lots more videos in my channel, so have a look through. There might be the answers there for you. And if not, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for listening.